Welcome to another episode of the Hodgy podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Strati, and this is another episode of Therapy Thursday. Like I've said before, this is where we get deep, get a little uncomfortable. Stay with me, please. I know it's tough. The stuff we talk about on here can be tough, but it's life and we need to deal with it, and it happens, and basically just suck it up and stay with me for a bit, okay? Just at least 5 minutes. See if you can hang on for another 5, and just maybe you'll make it to the end of this. I think these episodes are really helpful because if you're going through some shit and you don't have anybody else to really talk to about it, this is where you can kind of get it off your chest. You can send me your stuff, like I always say. You can send, if you're struggling with something, you can send your issues to me and I can talk about it here. You can email me. It's thehodgypodgypod@gmail.com. Email me, DM me through Instagram, and I'll talk about it here because I know that everybody is going through so much, and we try not to go through the stuff and we try to bury it, but it's still there. So this particular topic we will be discussing is something that tends to always be there, and I know it makes people uncomfortable. There's going to be a few of these episodes that really make some people want to run away. I get it, but it doesn't stop these things from happening. It doesn't stop it. You just have to stick with me here. So today, this episode is about grief. And I know, don't run away. Don't be like, oh, it's going to be such a downer episode. I mean, it's not going to be a downer episode. It's going to be helpful because we all lose something or someone, or something changes and we're sad about it and we grieve about it. It's not just, oh, I'm grieving about somebody dying. Like, grief is about a bunch of different things. And I think it's being talked about more as people are starting to talk more and more about mental health, thankfully, instead of just burying it and ignoring it. But I think that it happens to us all, and we can't hide from it. And we don't want to live in it forever, but we can't hide and run away from it. So I'm going to be talking about all sorts of different grief. There's obviously the one that you think of when you think of that word, and it's losing someone you love. But there's losing someone you love, obviously losing a pet, which is somebody you love too. It could be losing a house, losing a car, losing a job, losing friendships, losing the old body that you used to have, the way you used to look. Like, I've gone through all of those things, and they all are really shitty, and they all suck for a while, but there is a purpose and a reason for them happening. And I think, sorry, I got a haircut and I'm still not used to it. So if you see me messing with it, it's because I'm still not used to having bangs. But anyway, I have been through all of those losses. And like I said, when you lose something, it's not just because. It's not just for shits and giggles. It happens to you for a reason. And while you're in the midst of the storm of grief, you may not be able to understand why this happened. But as the storm starts to break away and the sun starts to come out again, and the grief kind of lessens a little bit, you start to understand why it happened, and it makes it easier a little bit. So just know that whenever you're going through that, it's always for a reason, and it's not to punish you. And I know that people talk a lot about karma, like when you do something crappy to somebody and then something happens to you, like, oh, karma. I'm starting to believe less and less in karma, and I feel like it's damaging to believe in karma a little bit, because it's like you always have this anxiety that if you do something wrong, you're going to be punished for it, instead of just realizing you're human and it happens. You're constantly learning. We are learning all the time. And we learn to be better people. Sometimes we go through phases where we're just going through our own stuff and we're just not a great person to somebody else. Or we do the wrong things and we hurt somebody that we love, or even a stranger, or we just do something stupid because we're wrapped up in other stuff, and it just happens. I don't think that you are constantly punished for making a mistake. I don't think it's an eye for an eye type of thing like that. I think that you make mistakes, you lose things, you lose people, things change to teach you and to help you grow and to help you become a better person. And I think we need to remember that with grief. And I know it's hard because it hurts. And I'll be looking at my notes a little bit so I don't ramble on and on. So I do have some stuff that I want to make sure we go over. But I want you to know that you're not alone, and there's no set timeline for grief. Like, they do the 5 steps of grief, or whatever, was it denial and bargaining and anger, acceptance, and whatever else there is. And it's like written down, like, these are what you go through. But I don't feel like it's talked about enough that those can happen all over the place, not in order, and 20 years down the freaking road. Like, it's not just, oh, well, I went through all my steps, now I'm cured of my grief. That's not the way it happens. And I feel like people can feel shame sometimes for having grief pop back up when they've lost something or someone. And I want you to know, you shouldn't feel shamed for that. You shouldn't feel ashamed of yourself. You shouldn't feel like, what is wrong with me? I should get over it. They told me I should get over it. It's been this long. It was just this. It's not a big deal. Again, I'm not saying live in your grief, because that causes a whole other host of issues when you stay in that sadness and that trauma. And we'll get to that later in the episode. But I want you to understand that if all of a sudden, like, you've lost somebody and you're like, I'm doing pretty good, I've accepted what happened, I miss them, I love them, but I know that they're in a better place, and you're doing great, and then Christmas comes around and suddenly you find yourself angry for no reason, and you're like, fuck Christmas, bah humbug, I hate this. You're angry for some reason, and you're like, what the heck is happening? And that could be you missing that person that you normally always had around Christmas. It could be a parent. Like, it's, for me, every Christmas Eve was at my mom's. So, and she's not here anymore. And so I host Christmas Eve with my family and my friends. And it's weird. And I miss my mom. And it can get, and I know people that have lost family members, that when it comes around Christmas time, or any sort of birthday, holiday, any sort of something, if you feel like you're starting to get these feelings that you can't quite explain, think about if it's possibly related to something that you've lost or someone that you've lost, and take a second to sit in that and think about it and just be like, I normally am not this reactive to Christmas lights. I normally don't want to burn down somebody else's Christmas tree or kick a Christmas present across the room, but today I do. Like, what is that? Why? I'm like, oh, it's because so-and-so's not here, and we always used to wrap gifts together. We always used to, something like that. It's grief doesn't just go away just because you've accepted that the person, thing, animal, body, whatever has gone. Like, you've accepted that that has happened, but it doesn't mean that that grief isn't going to creep up sometimes. And if it does, no matter how many years it's been, that is okay. It's completely normal. It's totally okay. You're not a freak. You're not a baby. It happens. And, especially if you've lost a parent. I lost both my parents. By the time I was 32, both were gone. And they say time heals all wounds, and that's true to an extent. You learn how to deal with it. You learn how to cope. But at the same time, my kids don't remember my mom. My daughter isn't going to know her because she wasn't born yet. My mom died while I was pregnant with her. And so I think she's a mini version of my mom, so that's frightening. But she's not going to ever really know her. She'll know her through what I tell her. But my son was young when she died. He's not going to remember her. And so as they grow older, and I'm not going to have her to share those memories with, I'm not going to have her to talk about how was I at that age? And, if she was alive, and I would ask her, so how was I at Piper's age? And she would laugh at me like, you're in trouble. Because she's like, she's just like you. She's just like me. She's stubborn. You're in trouble. And all I can do is remember that who she was and the things that she would say to me if she was here. But it still sucks that she's not here. And I know that's going to pop up throughout my kids' lives. And as we go through different seasons, and as I go through different changes and different things, like, I am going to remember I don't have her. I never really had a dad, but I'm never going to have the possibility of him coming back into my life. Like, those are gone. And it's sad, and I understand why they're gone. And that's important. That's really important to understand why somebody isn't here anymore. And you have to realize, normally it's to make you better. And I know it's shitty to think, well, that doesn't really take away my pain. That doesn't make me feel any better, Lauren, because they're still gone. And I'm still pretty freaking sad. True. But for me, I can really just go based off of my experiences. My mom, like, I miss my mom for who she was, but I miss her for what she could have been had she learned the lessons she was supposed to learn on this life, in this life that she had. And same for my dad. And now that they're not here, those troubles, those traumas, those generational trauma and curses and stuff are on me. That is something I now know I have to learn for them. I have to face my fears. Like, doing this podcast, absolutely terrifying for me. Completely 120% terrifying. Doing it on video, putting it on the internet, it's scary for me. It is. I am super self-critical. I am self-conscious. I can be a total stress case. So doing something like this, saying personal things, is really, really, really scary for me. And it's something like, doing things that are scary and that make you vulnerable is something that my mom would run away from. And I know that I have to conquer my fears, and I have to, even if this fails, like, I've done tried other businesses and they've failed. I put myself out there before and that stuff has failed and hasn't gotten the desired outcome that I wanted. And that happened with my mom. That happened with my dad. My mom gave up and she hid away. She closed herself off. She ran away and she died not accomplishing what she wanted to accomplish. And because she saw herself as a failure and she didn't move forward and she just stayed stuck. And so I can't do that. I have to make her death mean something, which my sisters and I, we all know that her death has to mean something. Her being gone as early as she left has to mean something. And same with my dad. Like, my dad had lots of PTSD from being in Vietnam and all this other things, and he had a lot of fear, a lot of guilt, and he let that eat him up as well, and he's gone. And so I have made tons of stupid mistakes in my life that I started to let eat away at me and fill me with shame and fill me with guilt, and I started to close myself off like they did. And I started to, not in the same way that they did, thankfully, but I punished myself in a way that would close myself off. And I learned that I can't do that if I want, like, if I just sit in the failure of things and let that ruin me, then their death meant nothing. They died for nothing. And I can't have that. I can't. Losing my mom was painful enough. Not having her around is painful enough. But I can't let her down. I can't let myself down, my kids down. Like, I can't do that. And so same with pets that I've lost. I still have guilt about one of my dogs that passed away because we were a young family. My kids were super young. We didn't have enough money. And he was also, like, taking him to the vet was really hard. Like, he'd have seizures. It was a whole thing. And he died young. And I still hold guilt for that. I wish that I could have taken better care of him. I know I did the best I could in the moment, but now being older and having my kids be older and taking care of my other dogs that I have now better, like, I wish I could have had more time with him, or my cats and my other dog. I wish I had more time, and I feel tremendous guilt about it. And then I have to remember, what have you learned from him passing away? What have you learned about our other dog passing away? We wouldn't have the dogs we have now without them leaving and sending those pups to us. And like our dog Rocket, our youngest pup, he's a rescue. He's wild and crazy, but he's also super skittish and scared. And where would he be without us? Who knows if he would have a family that loves him as much as we do, that is as patient with him, that has a family that has a dog like our other dog that he can run wild with and go totally apeshit with. Where would he be if our dog Rambo didn't pass away? Who led a good life, and I miss him terribly, but I know he sent Rocket to us. And so there's a reason for these things happening. And I know that grief is still hard to deal with for some people, and you just want to be like, well, okay, you told me it happened for a reason. I'm good. Totally good. I've let it go. I'm fine. And that's totally cool. If you think and know and feel that you're fine with whatever loss you had, great. But just make sure you're not lying to yourself and not hiding away from the pain. That is a huge thing because have you ever noticed when you are going through some serious stuff in your life, whether it's a loss or stress or something like that, and you're like, I can't handle it right now. I can't do it. I cannot handle it. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to cope with it. I don't want to talk about it. You ever notice that when you do that, you get sick, or you get some weird sort of pain, or like your back goes out, or you get a kink in your neck or something like that? Do you ever notice, like, pay attention when you're trying to, like, I can't handle this right now. I'm super stressed, but I can't deal with this grief, pain, whatever right now. You'll notice that energy has to go somewhere, and it will stay in your body if you don't deal with it. Like my grief, my shame, my fear, my wanting to people please, all of that stuff became like weight I gained. I kept it all in, thought I needed to punish myself for my losses, for my mistakes, for all of those things. And that ended up becoming weight I gained that I'm still trying to get off and lose. It became weird different things with my body that would pop up and happen. And I'm like, what the hell? And it's like you hear a little voice in your head say, you're not dealing with your stuff. You're not dealing with the grief of this or that or whatever. And so we're going to protect you. Your body will try and protect you by giving you either signals and signs, or weight gain or something. Your body will let you know, hey, since you're not dealing with this stuff, we're going to protect you, or show you that you need to deal with this stuff, or there's going to be a consequence. You can't just not deal with it. And like I said, it's not just losing someone. It could be like somebody dying. It's a relationship, a friendship ending. And that sucks too. That's a whole, you can say, oh, I'm fine. They weren't worth it. Whatever. I'm better off without them, which is probably true. Probably, if they're not in your life anymore, it's probably true that you weren't meant to have them in your life. And they taught you a lesson, and now you got to move forward. But you have to go through those emotions of losing that person, that relationship, what that means, and deal with it, understand why it happened, and then go past it. Not just go, whoop, I'm good. Because it's gonna come back at you. Believe me, I know. And you just have to, again, think about why those losses happened, and not just, you have to think about why they happened and how to move forward from them constructively, and what you can do to honor those losses. So whether it's a person, a dog, a cat, your previous body, a friendship, what way can you honor those in your life going forward to not only help you move forward and continue to become a better person, but to help you deal with the loss as well. Because it doesn't just go away. You have to deal with it. And it's funny, when I lost my mom, and everybody handles grief differently. Understand. I understand that. I know that people, because you could be like, well, just because I'm not crying about so-and-so or this or that doesn't mean I'm not grieving, Lauren. I understand. And I'm not saying there's not, again, just like the 5 steps of grieving, which I think are baloney. I don't think there's any one set way for people to grieve. Like, you have to cry. No, you don't. Some people just don't cry. Or You have to do this, you have to do that. Sometimes people go through grief really quick and they get to the acceptance and they're totally fine the rest of their lives. That is completely okay. You don't have to cry about it 20 years down the road. That's totally fine. That doesn't mean you're a freak. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with you if you've gone through the grief quickly, gone through the stages, and are totally fine. That's okay too. You don't have to linger in it either. If you get to the point where you understand why what happened, the reasons for it, what you've learned, that you were blessed that you had that while you did, and now you're going to find other blessings because of this, and you were able to move through all that quickly, that's great. But it's also great if it still takes you a while to get there, and then if you stumble down the road again, that's totally okay too. You just know that that's okay. And I know, because I've experienced people trying to deal with me when I've been grieving, that people handle it in completely different ways. They my in-laws, I couldn't have asked for better in-laws. I really, really couldn't. Like, they are the most amazing people. But when my mom died, none of them knew how to act. My husband didn't know how to act. He didn't know what to say. He said a lot of wrong things that took me a while to move past. Being pregnant at the time that it happened didn't help either. But my whole family, my whole in-law side didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to handle it. Kind of just like didn't say anything at all to me about it, really. And I was pissed. And I confronted my father-in-law and I was like, you didn't say anything. Like, my mom died. I watched her die. It was terrible. And you didn't say anything. And I needed to know that the family I had left that wasn't grieving my mom, because they didn't really know her, I needed to know that they cared about me, that they loved me, and that they were there for me. And because my parents were gone at that point. I was 32, my mom gone. And I was pissed. But they didn't know how to handle it. And that's tough. Trying to navigate how to handle somebody else's grief is difficult, because you don't want to be too pushy. You don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to make it worse. But you also don't want to avoid it either. You can't ignore it, because that person's going through it. And so you have to just do your best to just let them know that you're there for them, and just say whatever you need. If you need a hug, if you need to vent, if you need to scream, if you need to cry, if you need to do whatever, just know that I'm here for you, and check in on them. And my in-laws and my husband, because I've lost animals down the road, like my husband and I have, and I had a miscarriage, and like that was, they've learned through those losses that they didn't handle quite so well. And after my mom especially, they've learned how to take care of and comfort me better in those times. They've learned how to help others. I feel like they've learned how to help others deal with their grief that better now. And I think that's great. And that's because I know it's for my family, that stuff can be hard to deal with. It's kind of just like, I'm so sorry, and then move on, because it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable for them. And I'm one of those people that are all about, like, I don't care if it's uncomfortable or not. We're gonna deal with it, because I can't let it eat away at me or them. Like, we got to deal with it. And I know that it's really tough to figure out how to help somebody that's grieving. But the biggest thing I think that anybody can do is let them know that you're there. Let them know that you're thinking about them. You don't have to be like, hey, remember how your so-and-so died? Like, just wanted to make sure you're doing okay. Like, nothing awkward like that. Just be like, hey, just checking in. Or thinking about you, sending you a hug. Anything like that to let somebody know. And whether they need that or not, you know that you're letting them know that they still have you, that cares about them, that loves them, that they have another someone in their life that cares about them. Because like I asked someone who, she had recently lost one of her dogs, and it was like her beloved, like, best friend, soulmate dog. Like, anybody who's had a dog, there's that one dog that they just have that connection with. I've been lucky enough to have a few of those dogs that are just like my heart and soul. Same with my cats. My husband has our oldest dog. But this person, she lost her beloved dog, and she's still grieving. I can't remember how many months it was, but she's still grieving that loss. And I told her I was going to be doing this podcast on grief. And I said, what do you want me to talk about? And she said, how about talking about suicide? Because it's talking about feeling so deeply in grief, feeling that loss so much that you don't want to be here anymore. You want to be with who you lost. And she's like, I bet you didn't see that coming. I bet you were surprised that I said that. I'm like, nope, sure as shit wasn't, because I understand it. I have felt that. I have felt that recently. It gets overwhelming when you feel like you've lost such an important part of you, and all you want to do is be there with them. And like, the only way that you can do it is through death. And I get that, because I've missed my dogs and my cats and my mom and all the other people that I've lost along the way. And life gets so heavy sometimes. Like, I just want to be with them. I miss them so freaking much, and they can't come back here, but I can go there. And that's why it's important to check in with those that have lost someone or something. And I know it can be hard because life is crazy and we all have our own stuff going on, but it's important to check in with them and to let them know that somebody else still loves them, and that they matter, and that they're worth, they need to stay here, basically. Like, I know that I miss who I miss, and I know that she misses her dog, and there's no one that can replace any of those. No other dogs or cats or whatever are going to replace the ones that I had. My cats, we'll probably never get a cat again because my husband doesn't like them, but they saved my life. And that's a whole nother episode about suicide attempts, thoughts of that stuff. And I know that's super heavy, and I know you're like, whoa, this is really intense, but that is life. We all go through some dark times, and grief can bring us into really, really dark, heavy times. And sometimes that thought of not being here anymore does come up. And like I said, my cats were the ones that saved my life. And I'll go into that story when I'm going to do an episode specifically about suicide. I know it's heavy, and I know it's like, but that rate of those happening is crazy, crazy high right now. And I think it's really important to talk about that and my personal beliefs on it, why I'm still here, and why I haven't gone through that process of doing that. And I think that's really important to talk about, and that's not something you can run away from, because what if you run away from it and you ignore somebody's signs of it and then they're gone? How are you going to feel then? It's that's same with grief. You can't run away from this stuff, because it will find a way to shove it back in your face and be like, hey, you avoided me for a really long time. Now I'm here and you need to deal with me. Whether it's with an illness or weight gain or random crying or random rage or something like that, you're going to have to deal with it. And I just think that making sure, now you don't have to check in with somebody constantly. It's not something like that, like, oh, she just lost this or he just lost that. Like, but if they pop into your brain, check on them. That's a good indication. If you're suddenly randomly thinking about, like, gee, so-and-so just lost their dog, or just broke up with somebody else, or I know that they've been going through a tough time because I know that they've been struggling with their body image and their weight gain or whatever. Like, if their name pops into your head, do yourself and them a favor and just say, hey, been thinking about you. How you doing? That's it. Just nothing crazy. You don't have to overthink it, but there's always signs that pop up in your heart or in your brain or in your gut that say, hey, maybe, it's a little whisper, like, hey, go check on that. Go check on them. And I think it's really important to listen to that. And like I said, grief is super uncomfortable. None of us like to feel it. It sucks. We don't like to lose anybody or anything. And I think that as much as it's uncomfortable, it still needs to be dealt with. You can't avoid it. And it's better to walk through it and know that it can happen again, and just be like, I understand why this is happening. I miss them. I love them. Or I miss my old body, or man, I really wish I could fit into that again, or I really wonder what life would be like if I was still in that relationship. And just, if those feelings come up again, you just breathe through them, deal with them, let them go. And your body will thank you, your brain, your heart, every part of you will thank you for not just running away. Not running away from people that are dealing with grief, not running away from yourself. You just have to deal with it and then move past it, and you will become better and stronger for it. And just know, all of this shit happens to you for a reason. You are not being punished. You did not do something to deserve somebody dying. You did not do something to deserve packing on the weight, or you didn't do something to deserve your cancer, or whatever you have happen to you. You didn't do anything to deserve it. It might be part of your plan, your life's plan, if you believe in that, like your blueprint in life to help you learn things. You might have planned it before you came into this life, if you have that belief, which I do. I believe that everything happens for a reason. Everything is meant to teach you so you can become the best version of yourself. But I don't think that you're not being punished. It feels like that at the time, and it hurts like hell, and you want to scream fuck at the top of your lungs, because and just run away from it. But you're not being punished. You are so loved, and you are just here to learn and become the best version of yourself that you can be. And going through that crap and that heartache and those losses is only going to help make you be a stronger person and help others that have gone through that as well. And before I wrap this up, because I know, looking at my time here, we're getting a little long here, but I wanted to just read a couple of quotes that I think help with grief. And for the animal lovers who have lost an animal, I'm going to take a sip of water because it's a bit wordy. But this is about somebody who's lost a pet. I'm going to try and get through this without crying. Every time I read this, I get choked up, so I will try not to this time. But I feel it's really helpful. I keep this on my fridge when I'm missing one of my animals. I read this, and just like that feeling I get, like one day I will get to see them again. So this is called The Rainbow Bridge. You've probably heard of it, but it says, by the edge of a woods, at the foot of a hill, in a lush green meadow, where time stands still, where the friends of man and woman do run when their time on earth is over and done. For here, between this world and the next, is a place where each beloved creature finds a rest. On this golden land, they wait and they play till the rainbow bridge they cross over one day. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna do it. No more do they suffer in pain or in sadness, for here they are whole, their lives filled with gladness. Their limbs are restored, their health renewed, their bodies have healed, their strength imbued. They romp through the grass without even a care, until one day they start and sniff at the air. All ears prick forward, eyes dart front and back. Then all of a sudden one breaks from the pack. For just at that instant, their eyes have met, together again, both person and pet. So they run to each other, these friends from long past. The time of their parting is over at last. The sadness they felt while they were apart has turned into joy once more in each heart. They embrace with love that will last forever, and then, side by side, they cross over together. I made it. I did it without crying. I find that super, super helpful if you're grieving your pet, because it's just to think, especially when an animal was sick for a long time or had some sort of illness or anything like that, like mine did, and like my sister-in-law's dog, I just picture like he just recently passed away. And he was always really scared and skittish, and he had some health issues. And I just picture him and my two dogs and cats. Like, I picture him just running all over the place with my little pups, and just being the happy dog that he always could be, and that we saw signs of when he was with us. And like, just picturing all these animals there, just patiently waiting, playing, patiently waiting, and just knowing that one day, like, it doesn't feel like any sort of time has passed for them. And then we get there and they're so excited. And then you are together with them forever. And that is just so amazing, knowing that one day, because they don't know the difference, I believe. Like, there's no time once you pass away. I think that they're just having a good time, and they just, when you show up, it's like, oh, hey, I'm so happy. And it's, you guys are whole, and it's amazing. And I think that we need to just keep that kind of thing in mind when we're struggling. Like, they are okay. Like, it's, grief is for us, unfortunately, the ones that are still here. They are okay, and they just want us to live the best lives that we can. We are here to learn from their passing. We are not to be punished for their passing. We are not to just live in their absence forever. And so I'm going to read a couple more quotes and then I'll end this. But because I really liked them and I think that they're helpful. Grief is not a sign of weakness nor a lack of faith. It's the price of love. Which is true. Like, if you loved being in a friendship or loved the body that you had, or the house that you lost, or the loved one. It's grieving for that isn't a sign of weakness at all. It's a sign that you had something great for that time, and you will have something like that again. It's not just a one and done thing. And you have to know that. It's not just so and so or this and that is gone. Like, something different, something better, or something not necessarily better, but something also filling you up with love is around the corner. And if it's like a relationship, it might be something better. Let me clarify that. So, but it's not, grieving things isn't weak. Not grieving things isn't weak either. If you're just like, well, I'm fine. That's not weak either. But one more quote and then we'll wrap this up. And I hope that going through this and me talking through this has been helpful. But I really, really like this one. It says, grief is like the ocean. It comes in waves, ebbing and flowing. Sometimes the water is calm and sometimes it's overwhelming. All we can do is learn to swim. It's true. Like, all we can do is learn to deal with it and to grow from it and love more from it and love those around us more that are still here, and that those that are meant to come into our life, and still love those that have loved the things that have gone away, but know that we still deserve to live our lives. And when someone isn't here or something has ended, that doesn't mean that our life ends. It's just a different beginning that we need to, a different road we need to walk down without them, or with them, with the lessons that they've taught us, with their love still with us. And I just want whoever is grieving right now to know you're not alone. You have me to talk to. If you, like I said, email me, DM me. If you're like, I am just drowning in this right now and I need just to get it off my chest to somebody, send it to me. It is okay. It is okay to give that to me. I will take that on with you. I just want you guys not to avoid it. I want you to feel it. I want you to know that you're not being punished and that you are so, so, so very loved. And you deserve to live your best life and be the best version of yourself. And if you know somebody that's going through loss or grief, if you have their name pop into your head, message them asking how they're doing, or tell them that you're thinking about them. And that's it. So I truly hope that this was helpful. I know it's deep. I know it's a lot. And I know that it's hard to talk about, but it happens to all of us. And none of us are alone in it. And you guys can come here anytime you need. Message me. DM me. We'll talk. I'll talk about whatever you want to on here. If there's another Therapy Thursday issue you want to address, I can talk about it here. We're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about self-worth, childhood stuff, parenting stuff. We got to think of some sort of Halloween thing to come up with as well, or Christmas, depending on when this comes out. But this is your place to come and lay on the couch and vent your shit out to me, and I will take it on and I'll talk about it. And just know that you are so very loved, and I look forward to you talking to you guys more, and more Mondays and more Thursdays, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye, guys.